Hello! We're going to play with some watercolor techniques right now. First thing is going to be a flat wash. Anytime you see the word wash, that means you need to wet the paper first. And I'm using a pretty good watercolor paper, so I'm getting a nice flat wash. You really can't see the water very well. It's a little shiny if I lift up the page a little shiny. But basically, making it all wet. What that does is it allows the paint to smooth and kind of even itself out for me, which is real nice. Because I want it to be, look at that. Oh, see, that's one of the cool things with watercolor. It just sort of like spreads itself out. And this isn't a very dark flat wash, but that's okay. I'm just making some nice even strokes. This area is about, I don't know, 2 inches, about 3 inches, something like that. But I'm just going to get it on the page and let it even itself out, because it will. I can have faith. One of the nice things about watercolors, you can just leave it alone at some point. Flat wash. Flat, even. I'm using a flat brush. Works fabulous for that. Next, I'm going to clean my brush because, I'm doing a wash, so I need to wet the paper. Oh, I just got some paint on the paper. It's okay. This is my practice sheet. This is fun. This is like watercolor playtime. I'm just like, oh, I remember how to do that. I'm just going to make a graded wash. Now I'm going to try it out. So I'm wetting the paper. If I wasn't using kind of dirty water, then I should have changed my water between this and the last tutorial. It would have been better. Nice, even area, flat, clean color. Now, let's see. Let's go in here. And I do like to play with different colors, like mix them up a little bit. So here we got a red-orange. So I just get the idea of how colors mix when I'm working with them. Now, for a graded wash, I do want a good amount of paint on my brush to start, because I'm going to go from dark to light. You call it a gradient or a gradual wash. Graded wash basically means, oh, look at that. See, it just moves so nice. Moves from dark to light. And as I move across this page, I'm going to get a little more dark over here, a little more paint. As I move across the page, it's already pulling it for me. Isn't that fabulous? I can let it do that on its own, or I can start to, let me get careful not to overwork it. Take a little bit off my brush. I just don't want to leave it. It's just working for me because this was nice and wet. We'll leave that one. We'll talk about it again with the color blend. But if it's doing the work for me, leave it alone. Back away. That's a big rule with watercolor. Let it do what it wants to do. You'll get cool. Oh, I did not clean my brush very well, did I? Okay, so let's clean the brush. Is it clean? Yes. I like to check it on the paper towel, which I did not do that time. Did not do a good job. Oh, you know what else I didn't do a good job of? I didn't clean my water after I used it last. So there's some crud on the bottom. Clean your water. That's like number one before you do anything. Clean your water. Oh, I'm already doing bad habits. There we go. It's a color blend, which is also a type of wash. Wash means wet the paper first. These are all washes up here. Flat wash, graded wash, light to dark to light, or light to dark, really. You go either way. Color blend is basically 2 graded washes coming together. So let's do some orange here again. Play with the orange again. Oh, look at that. It's nice. And I'm going to let that move this way. That's probably enough to see how the color is going to change. Let's see. Let's move that graded wash into a yellow. We'll play with my yellow now. And I'm going to, oh, look at that. It just wants to like move and blend. There's a little more water on here than I probably needed. So I'm going to lift and take a little off. But now, because I want the colors to come together, I'm going to move across the whole area. And I shouldn't have gone both ways. Let me start again. Start with the yellow. Move over toward here and go like that. I'm not going to go all the way over. See how it's kind of pooling? I can leave that and see how it's going to look. If I don't really like it, I can just pick up a little bit with my brush and let that lift. But I'm letting them blend together. I've got the 2 colors coming together. I'm not going to try and overwork it. I put them there. I let them move. Let the paint do what it wants to do. It works well. All right, now let's go down here to wet into wet. So wet into wet is basically making a wash. Same kind of deal. Oh, I'm trying to hurry. Clean your brush, clean your brush, clean your brush. There we go. So I'm going to do my wash. Let's stick with the yellow-orange. This is kind of fun. There we go. Oh, look at this one. Nice. I love it. See it all like blending? Isn't that cool? If you make sound effects, it always works better. Art with sound effects works better. Trust me. It's for reals. All right, so nice flat wash. Now, let's see what happens if I add some other colors. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of water in my brush. I'm going to add a little bit of green. How about some green? We haven't played with green much. Put it in there. See what we get. How about blue-green? Okay, sure. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's just like, it just wants to spread. So if you've got a good amount of wet on the page already, look at it, it does all these cool things for you. Unlike other kinds of paints, watercolor, like, it does stuff. It moves, it changes, and you can either embrace the change and think, oh, cool, or you can go, oh my gosh, and it's really much more pleasant to just kind of let it play and to play with it, you know? Enjoy the fun things that it does. So all I'm doing here is making little marks. So I'm using a color on top of a wash while it's wet. Wet into wet. And look, oh, it all makes these cool things. Voila. Next thing. Now salt reacts with watercolor too and does some fun stuff. So to show you what that looks like, let's go with this blue, this lovely bluish greenish color I have here. I need a good amount of pigment. You know what? I want it to be a wash though. So let's clean my brush. I'm going to use that color, get it all mixed up nice. I'm going to make a nice wet area. And notice I'm using chunks of the page. Don't make this like 1 inch by 1 inch. You can't really see what's going to happen if you make it too small. Give yourself some space and some time. I think I want a little more pigment in here. The salt works best if you have a good amount of pigment. Not too much, because again, watercolors are meant to be transparent. But we want some there that we can actually move color, because that's the cool thing about the salt, is that it's going to move the color. So I have my cute little salt shaker, gift from a friend. Come on, salt. And you see how it kind of like, it pulls the color? It's making this little texture. And I'm going to leave this until it dries. But what it does is it pulls the pigment around that so you get a speckled look. It's lovely if you're painting a beach or things like that. All right, next wash. A lot of washes, a lot of ways to use washes here. So I'm adding a wash, which means I wet the paper. Hopefully you've seen that enough times now, you're getting that. Now I'm going to take, I don't know, we haven't done much with purple. Let's do some purple. How about the blue purple? Sure. Okay. And again, I want a good amount of ink there, of pigment. Love how it spreads. It just looks so cool. So that I can see the effect. Now, what I'm going to do is I just have a little bit of plastic wrap. Plastic bag works fine if you don't have plastic wrap or saran wrap or something like that. And I'm just going to take it and crumple it a little bit and place it on here, like so. And you can kind of see through there, it's pulling the pigment similar to how the salt did. And what you're going to get when you're all done is something like this, where it gives it kind of like this rocky texture. It could be cool for a stream or something rocky or something like that. Wouldn't that be cool? So far, all these are washes. All these things I've done have been parts of washes coming together, ways I can play with them, which is a cool thing. Now, what if I don't want to wet the paper first? Then what? Well, let's see what happens. I'm going to do what's called dry brush, which is really not dry brush because the brush is paint and it's wet. It's really dry paper. I don't know. I didn't make up the name. I just do it. So here we go. My paper is now dry. And now, ooh. Again, I'm using a flat brush. You can use a round or something else. But I can start to get really crisp edges and really thin lines. I can try using the brush in different ways. But this is going to allow me to get these nice edges. So all of this lets it blend and move. Like, look at the difference between that mark and that mark. So you can really get very cool different things happening with your... Ooh. See, I get distracted because it's fun. Watercolors are fun. Now, see, those are kind of blending because I wet it a bit. But I'm just practicing. So the goal of this is to try a bunch of different stuff, know the names, practice. There you go. Have fun. Thank you. That's a thumbs up.